First of all, just to make it very clear, I haven't been programming, I guess, ever in my life except high school. But as I'm stating on this slide, I have always been an engineer in my heart. I love technology. I've been doing various products and projects for years by now, 19 years by now. And I'm lucky to be a product advisor for Decentral Bank. Decentral Bank is a DAO issuing native stablecoins on NEAR, and the first stablecoin launched is USN, which is pegged to dollar. But before we continue, I want to ask a few questions to the audience. How many developers we have out here? Okay, quite a bit. Anyone developing on NEAR? Not yet, I hope. And everyone is active users of stablecoins? A little bit less. And the users of stablecoins, do you do some DeFi activity? Do you farm? Do you stake? Okay, thanks. Why I was asking those questions, I wanted to understand what kind of concepts or terms maybe in my presentation I need to explain a little bit more. Now, let's start from the very beginning. I have been always a manager. I have been CEO of startups. I have managed products and projects. And from my point of view, the real good developer, and I was asked to have a talk mostly kind of targeted at developers, is a developer that understands the actual business task. And the whole, my presentation will not include code, it will not include any advice how to code or do some specific hacks, but rather it will be about how Decentral Bank team have been supporting, solving problems of business and tasks of business with actual development. And what was that kind of history behind USN going from version 1 in April 2022 to version 3, which will be launched soon. So where does development start? In understanding of the business task. And who is the good developer? Someone who is able to offer solutions to the business. What were the biz dev tasks that Decentral Bank faced? First of all, and obviously, it was creating a stable coin that is stable. As much as everyone strives to do that, that is far from an easy task. Also, it's pretty impossible to launch a product right now, especially a stable coin, that doesn't have decentralized finance value, that cannot earn you yield somewhere, somehow. But also, the technology behind USN had to include some interesting value propositions like, I will name them later. And the conclusion is that solving those tasks was never easy and is not easy today. And we, the Decentral Bank team, went through at least 3 versions of USN, which shows that there are multiple solutions. Now, let's look at the history on how it all happened. In the beginning of spring this year, USN version 1 was launched. At that time, the market was bullish. It was just before the Terra collapse. Everyone were so confident and hopeful of, say, purely or mostly algorithmic stablecoins growing, and everyone were hopeful that mechanism such as minting stablecoin with some volatile asset like NEAR, for example, is the way to go. I will be providing more details and some graphs later. We know what happened in the beginning of May. Terra collapsed, the whole market went into the winter, crypto winter happened, and the DCB team had to reconsider, to regroup, and decide what would be the next step. So an intermediary kind of transition version of USN was launched when, for some period of time, you could mint USN only with USDT 1-to-1. The reserves would consist of USDT, and NEAR was kept aside. And now, with the team understanding more about what USN wants to be, how it's going to target retail users, DeFi users, how to manage integrations, etc., etc., in about few weeks, USN version 3 will be launched, which is pretty much a creative solution that includes two cores. One is a stable swap, extremely close to USN version 2, and the other core is CDP-based. I'm quite sure a lot of you know MakerDAO with DAI, right? That is used to be minted for Ethereum, now for various collateral. In my presentation, I will be going step by step, showing you the internal architecture and giving you hints on what was done cool, what were the mistakes on every stage. So, USN version 1, minting and redeeming of USN with near one-to-one. Reserves out-to-balance near and USDT. So let me explain how that actually worked. There was a smart contract where you pass near. It communicates with the price oracle, and then near is placed in the reserves. But depending, and we'll be looking in great detail how that works, but depending on the market condition, additional smart contract would constantly either sell near and buy USDT or sell USDT and buy near, allowing the reserves to constantly rebalance and keep collateralization. So the specifics of USN version 1 that was launched on April 25th are that it was built generally for the bullish market, and balancing of the reserve was done with some heavy maths and hardcore economics behind all the formulas of how to understand how the trading can happen. Let's look at the example of how the main contract operates when USN was purchased in the version 1. Alice would come and provide her near. Also would provide the slippage, and all of that would be transferred to the USN main contract. The contract would then contact price oracle, and near USDT exchange rate would be returned back. It would verify the timestamp and confirm that the slippage is according to what Alice has sent. USN is then minted and transferred back to USN. In an alternative case, when it's sold, USN, in an alternative case, the USN can be transferred through the smart contract to another user, Bob. But this is a pretty simple architecture. You receive near, you check out prices with price oracle, you mint USN, near is placed into the reserves, USN is returned to the user. But the really complicated thing about USN v1 was this. It is the system that allowed to balance the reserves. Let me remind you that reserves of version 1 consisted of near and USDT. Depending on the market conditions, near going up, near going down, it would either sell near for USDT and rebalance the reserve, or buy near for USDT and rebalance the reserve. This was a very complicated solution because of two main reasons. First of all, USDT reserves were placed in a REF pool, in a pool on REF Finance. For those who don't know, the REF Finance is the #1 decentralized exchange on near, offering a lot of opportunities for DeFi activity and mostly concentrating on swaps and stable swaps. So USN v1 had its reserves of USDT not kept on the smart contract, but kept on a stable pool on REF. You would ask, why? Because that allowed to mint additional uncollateralized USN, place it into the pool, balance it, and use the pool as an additional way to sell USN, not only through the smart contract. So the reserves were used to balance the pool. Now, that's number one. Number two is that, as you understand, this is literally an implementation of an automatic trading bot. There is a lot of heavy maths and economics behind it. A lot of simulations were done. And let me tell you up front, with the events that happened around May 9th, with the market collapsing, going into a deep, cold crypto winter, the system did very, very good. Nevertheless, the team decided to improve it further, but the system despite the market went like this, it was able to stay over-collateralized. Now, let's look at the actual architecture of the system that was rebalancing the reserves. First of all, the system would request refinance how many shares of the pool are currently owned. It would estimate how much can be removed. What did influence the amount of how much needs to be removed? First of all, REF, as any DEX, does their best to keep pools as healthy as possible, so estimates need to be done on how much commissions will it cost, whether there will be some sanctions if you try to withdraw too much. Then it would check how much USN, also there, we'll need it later. It would check cached prices, check near reserves that are kept separately on the smart contract, and make a decision whether it wants to buy USDT or sell USDT, there is a typo, or do nothing. Let's look at an example when it would sell USDT. It would exchange shares into USDT from the pool. It would swap USDT to NEAR using an additional pool on the REF. It would withdraw wrapped NEAR. Wrapped NEAR is the same NEAR, but used within REF Finance. Transfer wrapped NEAR to USN account. Withdraw native NEAR and place it onto the USN smart contract. And then, if the pool gets rebalanced, step 11, it would mint, or it would burn or mint additional USN, so the pool is right. So again, in USN v1, the complexity of balancing reserves were not only related to creating that bot that could sell USDT and buy NEAR and vice versa, but that was all really deeply related to managing the pool that was an additional instrument to acquiring liquidity. Anyway, May of 2022 happened. The whole industry went bearish, and we realized that the team realized that a better and more reliable solution is needed. Nevertheless, one of the first lessons learned, and I promised to share some lessons with you, was that the team decided not to rush and go into intermediary state of USN v2. That is basically extremely simple and allowed to secure the system and make sure no disaster happens. So USN v2 is minted and redeemed with USDT 1-to-1. Reserves still include NEAR, but it's just sitting there, and USDT part is actively used for minting and redeeming. The specifics are super simple. USN v2 was created to support the bear market conditions. So basically, it's a bear market transition design. The internal architecture is extremely simple. Alice transfers USDT, a particular amount of USN is returned to Alice, and vice versa. When Alice wants to redeem USN, it gets back USDT. Extremely simple. This design, despite it is not complicated, nothing, but allowed the team to grow USN circulating supply to over $110 million currently. Now, the most important is that USN version 3 is coming, and I'll be speaking in slightly more detail, but without providing, deep architecture kind of charts, graphs. USN v3 is the logical conclusion of everything that the team has previously learned, and USN v3, the one to be released in a few weeks, has two cores. Core number one is a stable swap, very much like USN V2, when you can bring USDT, USDC, convert it, swap it to USN one-to-one, and this core is extremely cost effective and mainly targeted at retail users that in future want to use USN mostly for payments. Now, a very important thing to consider is that during all its period of evolution, DCB team and USN protocol always had one thing in mind, and that is how does the system, how does the design and architecture make sure that the death spiral doesn't happen? As all of you know, the death spiral are the conditions that make the protocol go into a state where reserves are not efficient or stablecoin cannot be redeemed, and every next step and every next move makes the situation worse and worse. So in case of the stable swap core of USN, the solution for making sure it never goes into a death spiral is extremely simple. The proper decentralized oracles need to be in place. How does that work? Imagine there is USDT and USDC used for minting USN through the stable swap core. At some point, let's say USDT depegs, and the price goes below $1 to 0.97. At this moment, somebody might take $1 million USN, get back to the central bank, and try to request USDC that's also in the reserves. At this point, the oracle kicks in, and obviously, oracle needs to be properly secured from front-running attacks. It needs to have a proper TWAP. It needs to have a few other additional systems inside it to make sure that the price is always right. But basically, in this case, if USDT depegs, you cannot withdraw $1 of USDC. In this case, the system will return you 97 cents of USDC. So it really makes no sense to abuse the system. You would say that's not quite honest, but the idea behind the stable swap core is such that, you know, like everything has its price. And being cost efficient when you don't overpay when minting USN has a reason behind it. This means that in case something weird happens on the market, you're not guaranteed to get exactly one USDT or USDC back. But then there is the second core that is devoted to, I would say, more DeFi users. Let me remind you that the first CDP model-based stablecoin that became real big and is real big right now is DAI, created by MakerDAO. Let me remind everyone how it used to work. Right now it works slightly different, but doesn't matter. Alice would come and bring $150 worth of Ethereum, and only $100 worth of DAI would be minted. Those additional $50 worth of Ethereum were used, the over-collateralized part was used to make sure that as the price of Ethereum goes up and down, the protocol has always more than enough assets to back the circulating supply of DAI. So, and that was extremely creative. Obviously, the core point behind the CDP model, which is collateral depth position, was that liquidations had to be properly set up and be there. Because imagine, I come in, I bring $150 worth of, $170 worth of Ethereum, I receive $100 worth of DAI, and I go start paying. Now, as the price of Ethereum goes down a little bit, nothing happens, all good. But as soon as the price goes down so much that the Ethereum that I brought up yesterday costs only 150% of the coins that I received, the system needs to act fast and start selling that Ethereum on the market, so it's not under-collateralized if Ethereum goes down extremely fast. That model was strong enough, and there was only one situation, I believe, in 2018 when CDP-based DAI was close to its collapse, and that was when Ethereum went down. DAI started liquidating, chain liquidation of positions happened. More and more Ethereum was delivered to the market. The price of Ethereum went even lower, and it stopped at about, I think, 25% of the all collateral behind DAI staying in the reserves. Anyway, that is, CDPs are the only example of algorithmic stable coins that actually prove themselves to be strong enough on the market. Now, the DCB team, after figuring out that the stable swap core is good enough, cost efficient, pretty simple to secure it from the death spiral, decided that, hey, we need to give an opportunity to mint USN with the mechanisms that allow to target crypto users, DeFi users, and that is the collateral depth position. And in this case, and I will refer to another lesson learned, is it was decided to fork the code of Burrow. Burrow is a #1 lending protocol on Near, which at the peak, this May, before the overall collapse, it had more than 500 million worth of assets locked in the system. And Burrow is a great, technically speaking, solution. It allows you to bring in whatever collateral you want, like BTC, ETH, Near, ST Near, Linear, Aurora, and also stable coins, and then loan any other collateral that you want. So the Decentral Bank team looked at Burrow as an amazing example, great example of a lending protocol, and thought, well, that's a great piece of code to be utilized for minting USN for volatile collateral. So the code was taken, the code was changed a little bit, adapted a little bit, and in the coming weeks, users will be able to bring their Bitcoin, their Near, and create collateral depth positions, and in return, receive USN. But that is not even the whole story. The most important is when Burrow code was forked, comparing to forking DAI model, the mechanism that allowed to re-lend your collateral were also taken. This means that, let's say, I bring Bitcoin, $150 worth of Bitcoin, and I get $100 worth of USN back. Now, somebody comes in and says, you know, I have Ethereum, but I want to loan Bitcoin. So my Bitcoin that I brought up yesterday is loaned to that person. And guess what? While using those 100 USN, my collateral is at work and I'm earning yield. This means that the CDP core, the second core of USN, is not only the model that takes collateral, gives out a loan, collects interest, but it also allows to make your collateral work, making USN a great example of a stable coin that, when minted, allows you to earn. I decided not to bring up any actual, architectural solutions behind, especially the CDP core, because there are a lot of complicated aspects that I'm not that technically savvy to talk about. But the most important is understanding that USN version 3 as evolution of USN is solving the most important business task that I mentioned in the beginning better than anything. First of all, It is stable. Why? Because stable swap core will never get under-collateralized because it's using decentralized secured oracles. The CDP core will not become under-collateralized because it has improved and powerful liquidation bots running and liquidation mechanisms. So at the same time, the CDP core allows to get native yield. And over-collateralized with native yield, I'd say this is one of the holy, kind of points or graals of, like a dream stable coin. Stable, over-collateralized, offering yield. Now, the lessons learned before developing anything, ask yourself a question, why you want to develop it. Because I know for sure that Decentral Bank team, as it was developing USN from version 1 to version 3, had quite a bit of code that was done and then never used. By now, after the team has been in development for like 6 months, it's quite clear that it's much better before doing anything yourself, look around, see what are the good examples done by somebody out there, and fork and improve on them. Number 3 lesson, actually I should have made that number 0 lesson, is make audits of your code, especially if you're doing a stable coin or working with DeFi. On the blog, there was an article of a security issue that happened on USN this summer. Luckily, not a single dollar, not a single cent was stolen, but that was a result of 2 tiny bugs overlapping on each other, creating an opportunity to steal nearly the whole reserve. And number 4 is prototype or simulate before developing. This is also very important because prototyping, building a proof of concept, allows you to actually go even deeper and more detailed on your understanding of business tasks. Now, well, the time is up, but unique features of USN for further development are sustainable year generation. As I mentioned, the reserves have near. Near is a DPoS protocol. Near can be staked, and the awards can be distributed by to the crowd. Transactions in USN paid in USN. That is a pain to transact in USDT and need Ethereum. It's a pain to transact in USN and need Near. By end of the year, USN will not need that. You just have USN, you send it to anyone else, you don't need anything else. Full cross-chain compatibility. Bring USDT on Ethereum, receive USN on Near. Very quick in 1 minute. And obviously the full decentralization. And just in case, if anyone is programming on Rust, ping us on the Telegram, and somebody from the team will contact you. We're looking for developers. Thank you very much for attention.